Today's demonstration is how to butcher up pork butt to get it ready for grinding to turn into sausage. A couple things about working with raw meats. You definitely want to be able to put gloves on to kind of keep your hands from getting exposed to the raw meat as much as you can. When we're butchering, we have special safe gloves that we use to try to minimize our cuts. You want to have all of your equipment together and in order, because once you start touching the raw meat, you don't want to have the cross-contamination risk. And so there are 3 knives that we'll be using today that I want to put an edge on. Okay, make sure that they're sharpened up before we get started, because I really don't want to contaminate our sharpening steel. So this short blade, it comes pointed to an end and has a curve to it, is a boning knife. That's going to be used for trying to get meat separated from the bone structure, which we'll talk about once we open up the bag. This is a standard chef's knife, okay, or shorter 8-inch knife. This is going to be best for cutting up the fat pieces that are going to get trimmed off. And this is our butchering knife that's also known as a scimitar. Now this has a curve to it on the end, which does let it get into some nooks and crannies for doing some carving. But the fact that it is rounded for that sort of cutting means that's not my knife of choice for, say, cutting up the fat, though it could work for that. If I have multiple knives to choose from, if something gets dull in the middle of the job, I can always substitute out, meaning I could do the entire job of this if I had to. All right, watch is already off. Let's take off our excess bands, bracelets, etc. We have our food handler gloves to put on. As far as the butchering glove, goes on my non-knife holding hand. Okay, and so if I'm right-handed, that means I'm going to protect this left hand. These are color coded. I just know that I'm mostly a brown and I can get away with a gray. Okay, so this is inside out, which is not that big a deal. So long, what is a bigger deal is for me to look this over and make sure it doesn't have any holes in it. Okay, so when I slide that on, it's an extra layer of protection. Now what I mean by that, and if this gives you the heebie-jeebies on camera, so be it, is that it is slice proof. So if I'm working along with the meat and this hits my finger, it's not going to cut me. Okay, I would not be doing this with this other hand. It is not big old red slash. No, no, no. It is not puncture proof. Okay? So you still got to be mindful of what you're doing. All right. This whole area is going to get washed, rinsed, and sanitized at the end, which we'll talk to you about later. Let's talk about the meat that we're using today. This is a part of a pork butt roast. All right, and so this pork butt, what we want to know about it is where it came from on the animal. And the butt roast came from the front upper shoulder. Okay? And so it's not the butt part of the animal. And below this would be a picnic roast, lower part of the leg, that often has skin attached to it. Okay? You rarely see a pork butt roast with skin attached here to the fat. And why we want to know about that and where that cut of meat came from, and you might say, well, Mr. Novello, it says Winco on the back, that's where it came from. No, I'm talking about where it came from on the animal, is because where this muscle is on the animal and how it's been worked can give you a clue as to how you need to use this meat. And so because this is on a weight-bearing limb, the front arm of a hog supporting its hundreds of pounds of body weight, it's pretty developed, dense muscle. So it's tough meat. You're going to make it tenderized by cooking it slow, as you would for boiling this to shred it up for tamales, or simmering it in a tomatillo sauce to make chile verde, or you might fry it on low to make carnitas, or we're going to cut this up and grind it up. So we'll mechanically tenderize it. All right, not from low and slow heat to make sausage. In the South, for true barbecue, you do this for pulled pork where you would smoke it, okay, on low and slow heat to make it more tender. All right, here's something we need to know about pork before we get into this bag. This other bag, okay, from Winco has a bag of meat inside, and that's to help me not have such potential leaks and drippage. If you go into the meat counter looking to buy yourself a piece of meat, I don't know about coming with these gloves on, but you better have yourself some hand sanitizer nearby or be ready to go directly to the bathroom to wash your hands, because oftentimes these bags can be coated with some blood product. Okay, so we've got a bone in here, part of the shoulder blade, that sometimes there's like a sharp edge of it as it got sawed off, right, with machinery, and it sometimes can poke a hole in the bag. Well, that's going to make this meat not good, the fact that it has a hole in the bag, but it also could potentially leak juice everywhere else. All right, and whether we like it or not, when this butt roast is being sold for $1.74 a pound, which by an individual piece in October of 2020 is a pretty decent price. I might be able to right now get case price in the 160s, $1.60 a pound, but I have to buy myself like 60, 80 pounds at a time. Oftentimes this time of year, a single piece like this might be $2, $2.25 per pound. But if we're gonna have meat that's cheap, okay, it's gonna be packaged, mass packaged. It's gonna be thrown into the counter. We can't spend a lot of labor being all gentle with it. It's just kind of what comes with the trade. All right, something else to know about this particular cut of meat is its life expectancy here in the bag. All right, so this bag is actually marked for me, which is not all the time done. Okay, this is coming from Hormel. One of the biggest meat packers is IBP. They do mark their bags as well, to my recollection, and Tyson may not. But it tells me right now that you use or freeze this by October 27th. So it's stamped on the bag. That's great to know. It's right now October 22nd. So I would have 5 days to use this or freeze this. It also tells me that on the sticker, so that's helpful, but sometimes the sticker is removed or whatever. Okay? And why I'm telling you that is if you go and buy yourself pork that came from a case that has just a single bag on it, it may not be stamped in this way, okay? And it may not have the stamp on here, so you really won't know how long you have to use this, okay? And a pack date for pork is 21 days, all right? So I'm telling you that if this is marked to use or freeze by October 27th, 21 days ago on October 6th is when this meat went in this bag, wherever Hormel is shipping it from, to get to whatever warehouse that sent it to Vacaville Winco, and I bought it this past Sunday, okay? So the past Sunday was, the 16th, okay? So it got there pretty quickly. All right, so 21 days. And I'm telling you that because concept that we call FIFO, first in, first out, means that they're gonna rotate product to try to get rid of the oldest stuff first. Okay, so if you go asking for a case of pork, say at Sam's or Costco, it's gonna be in their best interest to bring you out the one that's gonna go bad first. Okay, and if you don't check the date on that, you might find yourself with a bunch of meat that you have to use up in a day or two, or you're gonna have to put it in your freezer when you may not have been planning on that, or it might be a day or two from going bad. Okay, and so if you know that the pack date is 21 days from when the use by date is, if they bring that case out and you know how to read the case and you can talk like someone who knows something about meat, you might tell the guy like, hey, this is pack date was October 6th, and that means I gotta use this by October 27th. That's like, 4 or 5 days from now. Do you got something newer? The guy will probably help you out, all right? He's gonna still throw this out in the case, but he's gonna take advantage of some other customer that doesn't know any better, all right? So I'm sorry if that seems mean to other people, but that's just the way things go with inventory. So again, FIFO, first in, first out. Oldest stuff often gonna be on top of the case, so if you're nice about it, lift up and reach down underneath to get fresher steaks, or reach in the back of a row of things to get newer yogurt or fresher cream or whatever it is. Just don't be the guy that disrupts all of the organization of how things are in the shelves. All right, we're gonna be opening this thing up. This is called a cryovac bag. So we're gonna speak up a little bit louder because we got the refrigerator on a defrost cycle. All right, this is a cryovac bag that is shrink wrapped together. You can see there's quite a bit of meat product in here. The myoglobin, not direct blood save, but it is gonna make a mess. And so everything to do with raw meat in here is red. And so we actually have bus tubs that have holes in them like a colander. Now I'm gonna take this in to open it up and to let that drain out. Okay? Now we do not want to be putting this in the sink and rinsing it off and making those pork juices go everywhere. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that open to pull that out. And I'm gonna do that to both of these roasts. Okay? So you might as well just get that mess going one time. So that's one. And here comes number two. All right, so the first one was about 8.5 pounds. And this roast also is a little bit over 8 pounds. So that's 16 pounds of pork butt, but there's bone involved. So I know that my yield usually is gonna be about 14 pounds of trim meat and fat, because I'm gonna lose some weight from the bone. Okay, so when I'm talking about this price of $1.74 for bone-in pork butt, there's gonna be quite a bit of labor right now of cutting this up. Well, that price of $1.74 thereabouts has been holding for a long, long time. And at Costco, you can buy pork butt in the bag that is boneless. This bone has already been taken out, okay, for $1.99 for quite some time. All right, and so someone has to do a little bit of math on that to see what's a better bargain. For me, I always buy pretty much the bone in unless I'm doing a huge event of something like carnitas or chile verde, because it's good for you guys to get practice with the butchering, your free labor, right? But honestly, because the bone itself, there's flavor in here. So if I'm doing a whole pork butt, okay, or some other larger roasts, it's kind of nice to have the bone. And here's the thing to know about this pork butt also, that just from experience you'll get to see, is this fat on top, as you may or may not have done your reading yet on Meat Basics, this is known as our fat cap. And as far as pork butts go, that is actually a pretty nice fat cap. Sometimes this fat cap is trimmed quite a bit less. Sometimes it's actually a little bit bigger. Okay? I want to have fat like this or even more when I am looking to make sausage. Because once I cut this all up, the part in here that's got some marbling in it is what I'm going to call my lean. And the part here that I'm going to trim off, that's called my fat. And what I'm going to want to have for a ratio is 4 pounds of lean to 1 pound of fat. Okay, and if I have a little bit of extra fat, I'll freeze it and save it for another time that I maybe have a pork butt that is a little bit less of a fat cap. But anytime we ever trim off this fat cap to like fry this up as carnitas, or to trim that off to boil it for tamales, okay, then I definitely like to freeze that to keep it in case I need more fat for another use. Okay, so again, this is about average. Now, I'm not trying to take 15 minutes of time explain that to you, but I want you to know something else about this meat. It's been in this bag for quite some time, and so when you first open it up, it might smell like sulfur, okay? Like farts, like pedos. That, within reason, okay, is normal. Now what I'm starting to do now is blotting off this juice. Okay, again, I do not rinse this, okay? But I can blot it with paper towels, throw those paper towels away. Now, if we were gonna be using this for pulled pork, I would not blot that juice off at all. I would keep this wet with that juice, and I would cut this up and be rolling this piece in my dry rub. And those meat juices will help that dry rub stick really well. But because I'm gonna be butchering this, and I don't want it to be all sliding around, I am gonna blot with these paper towels. And of course, these paper towels are gonna get thrown away. All right.